Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Shapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Nitantam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Padijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitangscha He Krishna Koruna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakapachubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya
Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Saraswatyasam
Taso Jayamudidayet Nasta Preshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya Bhagavad Utama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. So today, Thursday, July 24th, 2025, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 29 talks between Narada and King Prachinabhahi, and we're today, text 36 and 37 are grouped together as one. And we would like to dedicate all our prayers and activities of today's class to our friend Ambarish Prabhu, who has suffered a stroke apparently yesterday and is in the ICU. He's a very important devotee. Not only is he the great grandson of Henry Ford, but he's a great devotee in his own right, and he's very key player in the building of the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium in Mayapur, which he has personally donated zillions of dollars and has raised zillions of more dollars. Actually, his daughter, his younger daughter, I think when she turned 18, her grandmother, they're a very wealthy family, gave her $1 million. And then she immediately turned around and gave that $1 million to the TOVP building fund. Yes?
I just wanted to say I was working in a assisted living facility, and they said we had a new resident come in. And I'm not working anymore, so I can tell the story, but she was arguing, I could hear through the door, she was arguing with the helper. And she said, "Do you want me to go home?" And she said, "No." She said, "Well, you stop being so picky." So I listened, and there was no violence or anything. I opened the door, and this old lady was sitting on the bed. And I walked over to her, and she had a picture of Srila Prabhupada, she had the Radha Madhava, she had Jagannath, she had everything pasted on the wall. And I said, "Prabhupada, Radha Madhava." I said, you're a devotee. She said, yes, I am with ISKCON. And I said, so am I. I'm a Prabhupada disciple. She said, you're a Prabhupada disciple. She was Ambarish's mother's mother. And she wouldn't allow anybody to get near her bed. But she said, you come sit at the edge of my bed. And so we sat there and we had a long talk. And she was brought up in a very aristocratic family. And her sweater dropped on the floor. And she wouldn't wear it. She had to have it washed before. And the aides were like, hello, And so it was a nice experience. We were exchanging,
Okay, so we have to stop there and get on with our business here. But anyway, so everyone keep Ambarish in your prayers. He wasn't not a close friend of mine, but I knew him casually from the Miami temple where they used to live in the early 90s. And then later in Alachua. I used to see him at the post office. There's this little tiny post office in Alachua, which is this little tiny town. And I lived a block from the post office. So one day I'm in the post office and Ambarish is there and he gets out of a Volvo. And I said, Ambarish, you driving a Volvo? And he goes, it's half owned by Ford. So apparently Ford had an ownership stake in Volvo at the time. It was very humorous though. Very humble devotee, although quite wealthy, but very wonderful devotee. All right, so Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, text 36 and 36 and 37. Atat manortha bhutasya yato nartha parampara samsritistad vyavachedo bhaktya paramaya gurao vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yoga samahitaha sadri chi nena bhairagyam Jnanam cha janayashyati. So go ahead and chant and just take one verse.
One. Okay. Atat
manortha bhutasya yato nartha parampara samsritistad vyavachedo bhaktya paramaya gurao. Next person. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Samahitaha Sadrichi Nena Vairagyam Jnanam cha janayishyati. Anyone else? Atatmanortha bhutasya Vidonata parampara Samsritistad vyavachedo Bhakta paramaya gurao.
Vasudeve Bhagavati
Vasudeve Bhagavati
Bhakti Yoga Samahitaha
Bhakti Yoga Samahita
Sadvichi Nena Vairagyam
Sadrichi Nena Vairagyam
Jnanam Cha Janayishyati.
Jnanam Cha Janayishyati. All right, these synonyms, please repeat. Ata, therefore. Atmanaha, of the living entity. Artabhutasya, having his real interest. Yataha, from which? Anartha, of all unwanted things. Come on, computer, quit doing that. Parampara.
Parampara.
A series one after another.
A series one after another.
Samsmritihi.
Samsmriti.
Material existence.
Material existence.
Tat.
Tat.
Of that.
Of that.
Vyavachedaha.
Yavacheda.
Stopping.
Stopping.
Bhaktya.
Bhaktya.
By devotional service.
By devotional service.
Paramaya.
Maya.
Unalloyed. Gurau.
Gurau.
Unto the Supreme Lord or his representative.
Unto the Supreme Lord or his representative.
Vasudeve.
Vasudeva.
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 Bhagavati.
Bhagavati.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Bhakti Yogaha.
Bhakti Yoga.
Devotional service.
Devotional service.
Samahitaha.
Samahita.
Applied. Sadrichi Nena.
Sadhichinena.
Completely. Vairagyam.
Vairagyam.
Detachment.
Detachment.
Jnanam.
Jnana.
Full knowledge.
Full knowledge.
Cha.
Cha.
And.
And.
Janayashyati.
Janayashyati.
Will cause to become manifest.
Will cause to become manifest.
Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The real interest of the living entity is to get out of the nescience that causes him to endure repeated birth and death. The only remedy is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his representative. This thing. Unless one renders devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, one cannot possibly become completely detached from this material world, nor can he possibly manifest real knowledge. All right, please repeat. The real interest of the living entity
The real interest of the living entity
is to get out of the nescience
is to get out of the nescience
that causes him to endure repeated birth and death.
that causes him to endure repeated birth and death.
The only remedy is to surrender
The only remedy is to surrender
unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead
unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead
through his representative.
through his representative.
Unless one renders devotional service
Unless one renders devotional service
unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva,
unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva,
one cannot possibly become
one cannot possibly become
completely detached from this material world,
completely detached from this material world,
nor can he possibly manifest real knowledge.
nor can he possibly manifest real knowledge.
Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. This is the way to become detached from the artificial material condition. The only remedy is to take to Krishna consciousness and constantly engage in the devotional service of Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone is trying to be happy, and the process adopted to achieve that happiness is called self-interest. Unfortunately, the conditioned soul hovering within this material world does not know that his ultimate goal of self-interest is a Vasudeva. Some smriti, or material existence, begins with the illusioned bodily conception of life. And on the basis of this conception, there ensues a series of unwanted things, anarthas. These unwanted things are actually mental desires for various types of sense gratification. In this way, one accepts different types of bodies within this material world. One first has to control the mind so that the desires of the mind can be purified. This process is described in the Narada Pancharatra as Sarvo Padi Vinirmuktam, Tatpara Twaina Nirmalam. Unless one purifies his mind, there is no question of getting free from the material condition. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 176, Anarto Pashamam Shakshad Bhakti Yoga Madhoksaje Lokasya Janato Vidvangs Chakre Satvata Sanghitam. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth. Anarthas, unwanted things, come down from one bodily life to another. To get out of this entanglement, one has to take to the devotional service of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word guru is significant in this connection. The word guru may be translated as heavy or the supreme. In other words, the guru is the spiritual master. Srila Rishabhadev advised his sons, Guru Nasasyat. And then the end of the verse, Namocha Yak Samupeta Mrityum. One should not take up the post of spiritual master unless he is able to lead his disciple from the cycle of birth and death. From the Bhagavatam 5.5.18. Material existence is actually a chain of action and reaction, brought about different types of fruitive activities. This is the cause of birth and death. One can stop this process only by engaging oneself in the service of Vasudeva. Bhakti refers to those activities performed in the service of Lord Vasudeva. Because Lord Vasudeva is the supreme, one should engage oneself in his service, not in the service of the demigods. Devotional service begins from the neophyte stage, the stage of observing the rules and regulations, and extends to the point of spontaneous loving service to the Lord. The purpose of all stages is to satisfy Lord Vasudeva. When one is perfectly advanced in the devotional service of Vasudeva, one becomes completely detached from the service of the body. Completely detached from the service of the body. That's very powerful. That is his designated position in material existence. After becoming so detached, one becomes actually perfect in knowledge and engages perfectly in the service of Lord Vasudeva. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jiva Swarupahai Krishnara Nityadas. Every living entity is by constitutional position an eternal servant of Krishna. As soon as one engages in the service of Lord Vasudeva, he attains his normal constitutional position. This position is called the liberated stage. Muktir hitman yata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. In the liberated stage, one is situated in his original Krishna conscious position. He gives up all engagements in the service of matter, engagements concocted under the names of social service, national service, community service, dog service, automobile service, and so many other services conducted under the illusion of I and mine, as explained in the second chapter of the first canto. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janatyasya Vairagyam Yanam Chayadahi Tukam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Bhagavatam 127. Therefore, one must engage in the service of Vasudeva without material desire, mental speculation, or fruitive activity. Wow. This is just so classic verse and purport. We read the Sanskrit and the translation again. Atatmanor tabutasya yatonarta parampara samsmritish tadvivachedo bhuktya paramaya gurao Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Samahitaha Sadrichi Nena Vairagyam Gyanam Cha Janayishyati. The real interest of the living entity is to get out of the nescience that causes him to endure repeated birth and death. The only remedy is to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his representative. Unless one renders devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, one cannot possibly become completely detached from this material world, nor can he possibly manifest real knowledge. Mukham karoti bachalam, angam lagayate girim, jata kripa tamaham bande, Sri Gurum Dinatarinam. You may notice that the second verse, text 37, is very similar to the verse from the first canto, second chapter, that Prabhupada quotes in the purport. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janatyasya Vairagyam Gyanam Chayadahitukam. That by rendering devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, Bhagavati, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one immediately acquires detachment from this world, and also one acquires knowledge. So renunciation and knowledge are not necessarily by themselves the most important things in terms of Krishna consciousness, but they are byproducts of Krishna consciousness. And they are very helpful. But rather than striving separately for detachment and knowledge, one should endeavor strenuously for devotional service. And then automatically detachment from sense gratification and knowledge of the difference between matter and spirit and knowledge about the personality of Godhead, they accrue in one's person without separate endeavor. And that doesn't mean also, on the other hand, that one says, well, I don't have to worry about detachment, so I'll just be attached to sense gratification. No, that is also bogus. No, I don't have to endeavor separately. It just comes automatically. But still, you have to be in the right frame of mind. You have to be receptive, and you have to be willing to accept it as it comes. Krishna bestows detachment on you. And you say, oh, no, I don't want that. I don't need that. I'm already engaged in Krishna consciousness. Don't bother me with detachment. And knowledge, yeah, what good is this knowledge? That's not important. The only important thing is Krishna consciousness. Well, that's part and parcel of Krishna consciousness. And if you think like that, then you're actually not very Krishna conscious. You're neglecting your Krishna consciousness. I'm hearing discussion coming from the Pujari room. Can we close the door? It's very difficult to concentrate and speak this philosophy when someone else is talking, as if there were no class going on. So one has to accept this renunciation, and one can also cultivate it and try to improve one's own standard of renunciation. There are certain vows you take, like during Chaturmasya, which is now, right? You started Chaturmasya already. So, in each month there's, fasting from milk, fasting from yogurt, fasting from green leafy vegetables, which is right now, and then fasting from urd dal. Everybody says the urd dal, that's the easy one. Urd dal. What? So, no brats. one has to be willing to not only perform bhakti yoga, but embrace the spirit of surrender, which involves detachment. And also, as far as a cultivation of knowledge goes, then one should voraciously read Srila Prabhupada's book and study the philosophy. For example, on the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's quite extensive philosophy concerning the difference between matter and spirit, specifically concerning the temporality of matter, this body and the senses, and the eternality of spirit. And one should understand technically, scientifically, the difference between the two, and then one can also realize that knowledge. Knowledge is called jnana, but a further stage or development of knowledge is called vijnana. V is an intensifier. So that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita also, jnanam vijnanam astikyam, brahma karma sodbhavajam. The qualities of the brahmana, the qualities and work of the brahmana, include jnana and vijnana. So knowledge of the difference between matter and spirit, and applied realization of what to do with that knowledge, how to live with that knowledge, how to embody that knowledge, how to conduct oneself in pursuance of that knowledge. And that further deepens that jnana into vijnana, realization. What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita about this supreme knowledge that is the most confidential of all knowledge? That pratyak savagamam dharmyam sushukam kartavavyam. Pratyak, it is understood by direct experience. So it's just not a philosophical precept or a concept, but it is understood within through experience. So there is knowledge, and then absorbing that knowledge and applying that is realization. Pratyak savagamam dharmyam shushukam kartamavyam. This knowledge, this Krishna consciousness, it's realized through direct experience, and then shushukam kartamavyam. Shushuka means very happy. Shuka means happy. And shushuka means very happy. So shushukam kartavavyam, one becomes very happy and experiences the unlimited, eternal spiritual nature beyond the realm of simply a philosophical discussion. The philosophical discussion is important. And realizing that also is important. That's also discussed in the second chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam. That one realizes the subject matter he has heard from Vedanta through applied devotional service. So both things occur simultaneously, knowledge and realization, as well as detachment from sense gratification. Prabhupada mentions about sense gratification, that the real thing that is entangling the spirit soul within matter is that attachment to sense gratification. An ordinary person, like, what are you talking about? They have no idea, no concept that is actually, aha, you are here. Bang, ding, you have arrived. So, for an ordinary person, the idea that their attachment to sense gratification has anything to do with anything other than simply enjoying life is just bewildering. It's unattainable concept to them. But as they say in the Christian tradition, the wages of sin is death. So to forget Krishna and to engage in sense gratification pursuant to that forgetfulness, that is sinful. That is sinful life. And the modern outlook, contemporary culture, embraces that sinful activity as not only normal, but like it's healthy. It's good for you. You know, what that man needs is a woman. You know, and what I need is a good stiff drink, right? Yeah. Go into purified water. So, understanding the essence of what is the conundrum of the conditioned soul, it is quite foreign to most people because they have accepted the path of sense gratification as the real goal of life. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, and Prabhupada paraphrases in today's purport, Natevadu swartagatim hi Vishnum. They don't know that the real goal of life is to render devotional service to the Lord. Durashye bahir arti maninaha. Arti maninaha means they think their real interest is to engage themselves in the service of the senses, which are bahir, external. And the spirit is internal. So, people don't understand this. And then he quotes this verse in the purport. Anarto pashamam shakshad bhakti yogam at hoksaje. That the material miseries that we experience, the anartas, the unwanted things, are actually superfluous. And the real mitigation of that misery is to engage in the linking process of devotional service. That's the real understanding. But lokasya jadato vidvangs, people don't understand that. They don't see it. They're not taught. They don't get this education in Krishna consciousness. Why do they not get this education? Well, they don't come to the temple and hear about it, or they don't read it in Prabhupada's books. So this Krishna consciousness movement, in pursuance of the massive effort of Srila Vyasadeva to inject it into the world, Lokasya Janatovidvam Chakre Satata Samhitam. That's why he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why he gave this brilliant Bhagavatam to the world so that people could understand that the real solution to all the conundrums of material existence is to engage in devotional service. Otherwise, one is simply engaging in karmic activities. There's different types of karma. Karma is karma is also like a, football that gets tossed around in popular culture. Like my karma ran over your dogma or something like that. Very funny, but there's fruitive activities performed for elevation. That's actually karma. That's what karma means. And then there's vikarma, which means forbidden activities. And that's what everybody is interested in. Those things which are forbidden in the Vedic terms. So you have things that are to be done, like sacrifice, charity, austerity, penance, study of the Vedas. Those are favorable things. That's good karma, good work. But vikarma means forbidden activities. And therefore, Lord Rishabhdev, who Prabhupada quotes in the purport, says, Na sadhu manye yata atmano yan asanapi kleshida asadeha. I do not think it's befitting an intelligent person to engage themselves again in these forbidden activities, these sinful activities, vikarma, by which one gets birth after birth after birth, and each birth is replete with asanapi kleshada asadeha, these different types of miseries, deha, that are in relation to this body. And then one takes body after body after body, life after life after life. Oh man, what a bummer. What a Ferris wheel to get stuck on, and you can't get off. It's like a Twilight Zone ride, When you get on, this is going to be great, but then it doesn't stop and you can't get off. And you're just stuck going around and around and around. Only you're going around and around and around in the rain and the snow and the intense heat, and you're like, this is no fun. What was I thinking? And how do I get off? No, you can't jump off. Certain death. Those big Ferris wheels, you get to the top, look down and down. No, I'm not jumping out. I dare you to jump out. No, you go ahead. I'm not going to do it. So, but the Brahma Samhita explains, there's a very nice verse there, and it is text 54 of the Brahma Samhita, which is, let's see here. Lord Brahma explains this process of being entangled. What page is that? In fruitive activities. And what can one do to get out? He says, Yastvendram Gopa Mahavendra Aho Swakarma Bandhanurupa Palabhajanamata Noti Karmadi Nirtu Hatikintu Tabakti Bhajam Govindamadi Purusham Amaham Vajami. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who burns up to their roots all the fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion, and impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities, of all those who walk in the path of work, in accordance with the chain of their previously performed works, no less in the case of the tiny insect that bears the name Indragopa than in that of Indra, the king of the Devas. So he's saying that from this tiniest little Indragopa, which is like a microscopic virus-sized entity, all the way up to King Indra, the lord of the heavenly planets, everyone is getting their karma and is entangled in that way. And only those who take to Krishna consciousness and perform devotional service are all those reactions and all that fruit of that chain of action, reaction, burned up and destroyed, as is also explained in the second canto of the second chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, that the chain of fruitive activities is terminated when one sees the Lord, the Self, as the master and engages in his service. So that is the only way to actually get rid of the whole business. That's the only way to pull the stop button on the Ferris wheel and then get off. So we want to get off of this cycle of birth and death, going up, going down. So Lord Chaitanya talks about that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Brahmanda, Brahmite, Konya Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasadepai, Bhakti Lata Bija. That after wandering up and down through all the Brahmandas, the different universes, birth after life in different species and all that, when one actually becomes fortunate, Bhagyavan, Van means one who possesses, and Bhagya means good fortune. So when one actually becomes fortunate, or when one's lucky, like sometimes somebody wins the lottery or something, you lucky dog. So when we finally become that lucky dog, then Guru Krishna Prasadepai, Bhakti Lata Bija. By the mercy of Krishna, we get the spiritual master. And by the mercy of the spiritual master, we get Bhakti Lata Bija, the seed of the creeper of devotion. So the spiritual master gives that seed of that creeper, which the devotee then sows in their heart and waters that creeper by the process of hearing and chanting. And then just like when one has a garden, one has to pull out the weeds that grow along with the creeper. So along with that hearing and chanting, we're watering, but weeds grow up, like the desire for puja, to be worshipped by others, the desire for name, fame, recognition, the desire for profit, adoration, and distinction. It's so amazing. Before I came to Krishna consciousness, I did not realize these, you could say natural, but prominent psychic drivers of the conditioned soul. I didn't recognize them in myself, and I barely recognized them in others. But boy, once I read Chaitanya Charitamrita, aha, profit, adoration, and distinction. Now, who comes to mind when we think of someone who's intensely interested in profit, adoration, and distinction? It's somebody that I didn't vote for. I am, like Muhammad Ali, I am the greatest. You know, I want everyone to worship me. You worship me, you follow me. I am the Lord, I am the Master. Ishwaraham aham bogi. I am Ishwaraham, I am God, aham bogi. I am the enjoyer. Siddhoham balavan sukhi. Siddhoham, I am powerful, perfect. Siddhoham balavan, I'm very powerful. Sukhi, I am very happy. I have killed my enemy, or put him in jail, or discredited him, or fired him. You're fired. And he is my enemy, I've killed him. There's my other enemy, I'm going to kill him. And this way, I am perfect, powerful, and happy, and I'm going to enjoy. So that is the demoniac mentality, which, you know, is like, it's come to life. Srimad Bhagavatam has come to life. Chaitanya Charitamrita, we were living Chaitanya Charitamrita in living color right before our very eyes. But people don't even see that, even then. They think we better go along or we'll be in trouble. So people have embraced this forgetfulness of God and the pursuit of sense gratification in a desperate way to become happy. But the thing is, guess what? It doesn't work. You don't become happy. You just become more entangled. Prabhupada puts it as the entangled in the perplexities of Maya, become more and more entangled in these chain of action and reaction, and there's no happiness available. And furthermore, mogasha, moga karmana, moga jnana vichetasaha, all one's hopes and culture of knowledge and culture of fruitive activities, they become destroyed. They become finished. They become, one's hopes become dashed upon the rocks of disappointment of the material energy. It's like, you know, like in the old cowboy movie, these cards are marked. You know, the game is rigged. You can't win. You can't become happy. The best you can do without surrendering to Krishna is that you can try to speculate about the ultimate knowledge of reality. And the best you can do, if you're really expert at that, is come to the conclusion of impersonalism. And that's Maya's trick. And you can't get beyond that. The only way to come to pure devotional service is to come to pure devotional service. And then you can have the realization of all things desirable in life. And what is the most desirable thing in life? Is to get out of life. Get out of this life, this temporary life full of miseries. And there's nowhere you can go. I used to think, I've told this before, I'll tell it again since we have some people that didn't hear it last time. It's been a while. That when I was a teenager, I used to think, you know, if I could just go to some like perfect tropical island, you know, with the palm trees swaying in the breeze and the waves gently breaking on the shore, where everything is very nice. But then you get there, and what happens? There's like a lot of mosquitoes. And turns out the people that live there, they're just ordinary slobs like everybody else, competing for sense gratification. And maybe the resources are somewhat limited on that island. There may be too many people and not enough mangoes. Like Prabhupada says of the Mayavadis, who sometimes come to live in Vrindavan, and then the sadhus, they beg from door to door for chapatis. And so there may be too many Mayavadis and not enough chapatis. There's competition there. So it doesn't matter where one goes in the world. The perfect climate, like, San Diego, right? It's like the Vaikuntha planet for many people. But dang, it's expensive. I couldn't afford to even hardly, fill up a tank of gas there. And not only that, like you go in Balboa Park, there's like tons of homeless people hanging out. Why? Because, hey, the weather's great. So no matter where you go, what you do, there's always some impediment to enjoying. There's no perfect enjoyment. There's no perfect happiness. And then what happens? Oh yeah, by the way, you got to grow old, get sick, and die. Just in case you were an illusion thinking that you were happy, then it doesn't last forever, although we would like it to. So what to do? Well, perform devotional service and become detached, gain spiritual knowledge, and then at the end, if you perfectly know Krishna, factually understand something of the glories of Krishna and engage in his service, then Chaktva Deham Purnar Janma. You don't take another birth. Puna Janma. Chaktva Deham Purnar Janma. 90-80. Mam, so Arjuna. So that is the perfect solution. So, anarto pashamam shakshat, these miseries, these unwanted things, we don't realize that the way to get rid of them is the linking process of devotional service. Therefore, out of his infinite compassion, infinite wisdom, and infinite realization, Srila Vyasadeva has given us Bhagavatam, which we would not have without the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who has kindly translated. He's taken the key and he's unlocked the secret knowledge of the Vedas in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then opened it up for everyone to partake. Not just a few sadhus meditating in caves in the Himalayas, or a few Babajis in Radhakund, or whatever. But he's given to the whole world. And this is Srila Prabhupada was given this mission by Krishna, as he explained once in a room conversation. And Prabhupada was saying, and the devotee listening was completely astonished when Prabhupada said this. So I was in the spiritual world and Krishna told me, I want you to go down and preach. And Prabhupada was like, go down to the material world? I don't want to go down to the material world. I have to perform so many austerities. Krishna was like, no. You don't have to perform any austerities. You just go and write the books. And therefore Prabhupada said, I did not write these books. Krishna wrote these books. So he is a transparent bi-media. Krishna is dictating, and he's dictating on his dictaphone, writing the bhakti, translating the Sanskrit to English, and giving the realized Bhaktivedanta purports. It is amazing. And we are so fortunate to be able to receive that and take it. But you have to take it and not just take the book home and put it on the shelf, but you have to take it into your life and practice Krishna consciousness. And not just practice like, sentimentally, half-heartedly, whatever, it's cool, other things are cool. Krishna consciousness is cool, there's some cool movies, there's other cool stuff, and there's a lot of cool stuff in the world. But you have to take it into your heart and learn the science of bhakti and practice it nicely, according to the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Then your life will become perfect. And whatever else you do, you may have a job, you may have to do this, you may have to do that. We'll have to engage in things that we may not find to be the most wonderful things in our life. You know, how much do you love cleaning the bird cage?
Well, I love it because it's Krishna's bird cage. That's all I can say.
Sure wouldn't want to move in, would you?
If it wasn't Krishna's bird cage, I certainly wouldn't be doing it.
That's right. That's right. So many things that, I find myself doing many things around here that I would not choose to do were I not deputed by Krishna and Prabhupada to help out to do these things. So whatever else you have to do, you may have to do. But the most important thing is to embrace Krishna consciousness fully, wholly, and solely. And then you can go back home, back to Godhead. Like is quoted in that verse from Brahma Samhita. Those who take to the path of bhakti, all the fruitive activities, all the reactions, the chain of karma, it's all burned up for one who takes to the devotion of Lord Krishna. And for everyone else, from the tiniest little germ up to the king of heaven, Indra, they have to get their karma and go on and on and on in the cycle of birth and death. So now's a good time to get out of this material world. Our friend at the church where we distribute prasadam, she's kind of, I don't know, some kind of Buddhist or impersonalist or something. She said something about a teacher. And I don't think she was talking about her fourth grade teacher. I think she was talking about some spiritual teacher. She says, she was worried. She's in anxiety. She said, things are so bad in the world right now. And I said, well, guess what? They're going to get worse. It's Kali Yuga. I mean, it'll come to the point where people won't, somebody that's 30, 35 years old will be considered an old man by the end of Kali Yuga. People become like, there was a movie, The Time Machine, where he goes in the time machine to some, I don't know, I can't remember whether it was the past or the future, and there were these, they call them the warlocks. These like kind of like cavemen, Australopithecus or Cro-Mags or, Denisovans or Neanderthal type men, hairy guys, and they're wearing animal skins, and they drag the time machine into their cave, and and so they're like these stunted little horrible, uncivilized men. I think that was the future, actually. Yeah, so that's the future in Kali Yuga. They dig up these dinosaur bones and they say, oh, this is evolution. No, those are like cats and dogs of the end of Kali Yuga. These dinosaurs, boom, 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 shake the earth and giant bones and just real, brontosaurus eat tyrannosaurus and whatever. That's like dog eat dog, but raptor eat raptor. That's the future in Kali Yuga. So things are certainly going to get worse. They're going to get a lot worse. And boy, maybe I said the wrong thing to her. She was like, but the thing is, I also told her that we have a plan, and the plan is that one person at a time, we make the world more Krishna conscious, starting with ourselves, and then trying to spread to others. And just one man, one woman, one child at a time, people become Krishna conscious. And then Krishna conscious movement is growing. It's grown phenomenally since 1965 when Prabhupada came across the ocean to the Western world, where there was, how much Krishna consciousness was there? 0. And now look, we got a few people here in Tucson. Amazing. Yeah, what a place. But still, Krishna consciousness is there. And it is in so many places, all over the world, so many devotees. So the prediction of Lord Chaitanya that this Krishna conscious movement would eventually spread all over the world and influence the whole human course of history, one person at a time. All right, so we'll stop here. Questions, comments, realizations? All right, Pavitra, you sort of had your shot at the first of class by telling your story.
No, I'm telling you stories. You were talking about greed, like that. Wasn't it Bali Maharaj who told Dhruva Maharaj? No, that if you're not happy with 3 steps of land, you won't be happy with the whole universe?
Yeah, he said that for someone whose senses are not controlled, this is Lord Vamanadev speaking to Bali Maharaj, because Bali Maharaj, he's the emperor of the universe. And he said, please take some charity. So I'll take 3 steps of land, 3 paces of land, according to my step, this little guy, Vamanadev, the dwarf. And Bali Maharaj was like, well, come on. First of all, your steps aren't that big. He was wrong about that. But second of all, I'm the Lord Master of the universe, so I can give you anything you like, even a whole planet. And then Lord Vamanadev said, well, for one whose senses are not controlled, even possessing the whole universe is not enough to satisfy his senses. And at that time, Bali Maharaj is in possession of the universe. You can just imagine when Vamanadev told that, he's like, gulp. Oops, busted. So therefore, I'm just asking a little bit. Then he expanded his steps into these giant steps and took the whole universe away. In 2 steps, he took the universe away. All right, you promised me 3 steps. Now I've taken everything with 2 steps. What am I going to do with my 3rd step? You're a liar. You're lying. You promised me 3 steps. And now I've taken everything. What about my 3rd step? So Bali Maharaj is in a bit of a pickle, but because he's a great devotee, he's like, my Lord, please place your 3rd lotus footstep on my head. So wonderful. That is so beautiful. It's called Atmanivedanam, one who surrenders everything to Krishna. That's the final 9th process of the process of devotional service. Atmanivedanam. I've given you everything, and the only thing I have left, put your step right here on my head. The only place that wasn't covered by his 2 steps. Oh yeah. So therefore, a devotee is satisfied with whatever they have. You should be satisfied with whatever you have. That's Ishopanishad philosophy. Whatever God has given you, be satisfied. Don't try to acquire more and more and more and more, because you won't be satisfied. It'll just burn like a fire, and the only way you can keep that fire going is to feed it more and more and more and more, and you become more and more entangled and less happy and more filled with anxiety. All right, anyone else? Yes, Mike.
I just like that translation of the material miseries being superfluous.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's very reassuring. I don't need all this misery that I'm creating. Doesn't help my life. Doesn't contribute to the well-being, the ultimate well-being of my life and my soul,
Yeah, but then if we think, but I can't stop. I can't stop. Arjuna said, how come one is impelled to act impetuously, even though he knows better? Well, it's because he has so many desires, and it burns him like fire, and he has to feed that fire. Can't stop. I know it's bad, like a gambler. He's mortgaged his house, he's lost all his money, his family hates him, he stole his wife's car, he's in her purse all the time, getting out her money. And, just stop going to the gambling house. Stop going to the casino. I can't stop. I gotta go. I'm gonna win. He's lost everything already, and still he can't stop. He's in a disease condition because his senses and his mind are addicted to that rush of sense gratification. He can't stop. But a devotee is one that's like, okay, I stop. I stop. I give it up now. Krishna, I surrender to you. Yes.
I have this young girl. She's a good friend of mine, and I'm very honored to be like a mentor in her life. She calls me the other day. She's kind of taken me on as her adoptive mom. And she calls me and she's like, Kristen, I have a problem. I'm like, what? I can't stop shopping. And she's like always online and shopping. She's like just so distraught. She's like, I can't save money. I have this urge. I know not to do it and I do it anyways. And
Yes,
so,
the glories of Amazon.
right. That falls right.
Because what? It seems like it's spiritual because it's unlimited. I can't stop, yeah. But you have,
Too in Utah said that he was speaking specifically about marriage, but he says that it should be like a slip knot. You pull one string and the whole thing unravels.
normally what we do is we pull that string and the noose gets tighter around our neck. All right, so we'll stop here. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.